Emotionally unavailable.
Welcome to Emotionally Unavailable, the podcast where we dive deep into the world of emotional availability and intimacy. I'm your host, Melissa Hepner, and I can't tell you how excited I am to have you join me on this journey of self-discovery and connection. Whether you're navigating the complexities of relationships or exploring your own emotional landscape, this podcast is here to inspire, empower, and entertain. So get cozy and let's explore the depths of human emotions together. Hello, everybody. Happy Monday. This episode is coming to you late, so let me just get straight to the introduction. Today's guest is Paul Skidmore. Paul is an author and filmmaker in Tennessee. He's the author of short stories Kindling, Ciao Bella, and The Darkness Rolled Over Her, and a novel, God Rest Ye Merry Gentlemen. In 2020, he adopted The Darkness Rolled Over Her into a feature film, which he is expected to be released in early 2025. The film was produced on a modest budget with a small but passionate crew, and Skidmore hopes the film will have a big impact, saving lives, making friends for life, and encouraging everyone to keep moving. An e-book of the short story is available for free today, along with a fun discussion guide at 5coffeesinabook.com. Read the story with a friend and talk about it. His friends call him Skidmore or Skid, and yes, he'd love to have coffee with you. So I will include in the show notes the link to 5coffeesinabook.com and Paul's website and his Insta. So make sure you check out the show notes and have a magical Monday.
Emotionally unavailable.
Good. It actually let me start recording even though you're in the room.
Oh, okay. Great.
That's a first. It didn't give us any hell about it. That's so great.
Wonderful. I love your glasses.
Oh, thanks. Oh my God, dude,
fun.
I'm in the worst shape. Allergies in Oklahoma are no joke. And I forgot allergy medicine 2 days in a row. So as I was sleeping, you don't need to know any of this, but I'm going to share it anyway. As I was sleeping last night, hour after hour, the shit that was accumulating from my eyes got worse and worse and worse.
Yeah.
And they are so itchy and bloodshot. I mean, I was like scared of my eyes.
Yeah. I have arthritis, which sometimes can cause like an iritis, like a inflammation of the iris.
Yeah.
I had it back a few months ago, and I had like some steroid drops for it or whatever. And it started getting sore and swelling up last night. And I'm wondering if it's maybe just allergies. I've never really had allergies like other people have.
Well, but this year where do you live? Do you live in the Midwest?
I live in Middle Tennessee.
Okay. Is that considered South?
It's the South. Yeah.
Okay. Well, all I know is here, the red bud is like far higher than usual.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. And allergies are weird anyway, but yeah, it's not fun. And I got to remember to take the damn medicine. I know better, but it was a day. It was a day. So we'll forgive it.
Yeah.
I just closed out your shit because I am doing real well this morning. So, I'm going to summarize what I feel about you, which is that you really have a heart for people, lonely people, and just people who are suffering unnecessarily, because there are like ways to connect and there is hope, basically, is kind of the message. And you've written a nonfiction or a fiction book and a movie adaptation from that book. Okay, so let's get into it, man. Tell me how you got here.
Yeah, well, I've always been interested in stories since I was a little kid. Mom took me to the public library as a little kid, and I'd sit there with all the other kids. There was story time and stuff with the public library and check out books, and they would have storytelling contests. I remember when I was like 5, I think I was 5 years old, I won the storytelling contest for my age group. I don't think anybody else was in my age group.
But maybe still, tell me that didn't.
Yeah, it was a huge deal.
You were like, may as well have been Brad Pitt, brother. You were like, yes. I'm famous.
So that just started me just thinking about storytelling. And of course, I was born 78, so I grew up early 80s. Yeah. So as a kid, I'm watching, Ghostbusters and Back to the Future and Star Wars and Indiana Jones. And, as Jerry Seinfeld says, these were not movies, these were career options. Yeah. That was like, I thought I could, really live in those worlds and do those things and have those fun adventures. And so as I got older and, understood the world a little better, I did realize that, these are movies, but this is something that I can do.
Yeah.
Our family got a video camera before a lot of people had one. We had like a top loader thing that you carried around on your shoulder.
Yes.
And my brother had kind of learned how to use it, and he showed me how to use it. And so I made some horrible, unwatchable things, with that. And then later, when he was in high school, he had a little job working at some video place in town. So he showed me how to edit with 2 VCRs. So we finally had like 2 VCRs. So he's like, you play from this one and you record on this one, So that's where I sort of learned how to edit, was just like hit and play and record at the same time. And so when I was in high school, I made some silly stuff, for that we would show at school, like in morning announcement kind of things. And also at that time, I had a friend that went into the architecture program at UT, and he came over one day with this box of floppy disks. He's like, you got to check this out. He had like 40 floppy disks. So like, 9 hours later, I had 3D Studio Max on my, which he was using in the architecture program to do, building renderings and stuff. But now I could make like 3D text and spin it around. And I was making totally useless stuff with it. But Jurassic Park had just come out, like
oh my
before that.
Yes,
so
all of these things are bringing me back. Yes.
Yeah. And also another thing at this time, which I think we're experiencing again now, thanks to things like Instagram and TikTok. But when I was middle school, as a kid, middle school, high school, sort of in that range, adolescent range, it was a sort of popular thing. Like on HBO, they would run like a 30-minute or sometimes an hour long, like behind the scenes of like how a movie was made. One in particular that I remember was about Return of the Jedi. And I mean, it's like an hour long, it's really detailed. It goes into the concept art and the model making and the puppetry and the special effects and the visual effects. And, there's people who like, oh yeah, I've heard of George Lucas. And I'm like, okay, well, I've heard of Phil Tippett and Steve Spaz Williams and Dennis Muren and Stan Winston and all these guys that are making all the special effects and stuff. I was really into it, and I thought, I think maybe I want to do that. So I did 2 years of music education in college. One of my important teachers was my band director, and I like the creative and the emotional aspect of music.
Yeah.
But after 2 years in college, I still was just thinking about movies all the time, trying to make any kind of little video thing anytime I could with my friends. And also the internet really starts becoming a prominent thing at that time. And so before then, you've never really seen a picture of a director. I mean, you've seen Spielberg, Lucas, Woody Allen, maybe, but that's pretty much it. So now I'm starting to see pictures of Robert Zemeckis and Steven Soderbergh and David Fincher and these guys. I'm looking at these photos and I'm going, wow, man, these guys are huge nerds. Like, I'm a huge nerd. I could do this. They're not aliens from another planet. Spielberg's from like Indiana or Iowa or something or whatever, it's
all of them. Yep. Yeah, every one of them.
I could do this. So I just need to go to trade school. So at that point I went to North Carolina School of the Arts and learned to make films. And even before I went there, I kind of knew I didn't want to do the Hollywood thing. I grew up on the Hollywood movies, love Hollywood movies. I love a lot of the stuff that they produce, but I just felt like the things that I want to make, I'm not sure with studio execs standing over my shoulder that I'll get to make them the way that I want to make them.
Right.
So I've always had kind of a not necessarily DIY. I don't care to do it myself. I don't want to do it myself, but I do want to do it. I do want to do it my way though.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it's your vision. You want it to execute the way that your heart has dreamt of all this years.
100%. So after graduating, a lot of my friends went to Los Angeles. I had been in college in Memphis before film school. So I moved back to Memphis and did some things there. I still live in Tennessee now. So over the last, 20, 25 years, I have been working to, create things on my own so that I can speak with my voice about the things that I care about, at the time. It has made it difficult for me to market in some ways because a lot of it is genreless. I'm not writing to niche genres. That's the first question I get asked as an author. If I'm like, what's your genre? It's like, I don't do that. I'm not a genre.
Yeah.
I just
I used to say the same thing. If people ask me, I'd be like, self-helpish.
Yeah. Yeah. So I just, I like things that are good, and so I try to write whatever.
And you're not super concerned about fitting in a box.
Not at all. And I think for me, genre is a vehicle. So if I've got a message that's about this thing, then there's one type of vehicle that delivers that the best. And if I got, an idea in this other direction, there's some other vehicle that delivers that, and sometimes I just get inspired by a fun story and go off in that direction and it becomes what it is. So a few years ago, I was kind of frustrated with, I'd made some short films, but I just had not gotten my own feature film that I directed sort of off the ground. And I had just finished working at a place which I dearly love, but I'd gotten kind of creatively burnt out.
Yeah.
And so I spent a few weeks kind of recovering from that. And as part of that recovery, one of the things that flooded back was an old story that I'd thought about before. And so I woke up at like 3 a.m. and was like, I can't stop thinking about this. So I just put my clothes on, went down to Waffle House and sat in a booth, and I pounded out 3,500 words in like an hour.
Wow.
And just like chapter 1 of this book. Next night I went back, chapter 2. And it all needs to be edited. It's all raw, whatever. But it's like I was like, I think I'm writing something here.
Yeah, you had a real direction, sort of. Yeah. I mean, if you didn't know exactly, but like you getting a fucking chapter in one day, come on.
Absolutely. And it was exciting to be creating again. Like all my creative stuff had been for this other organization. So it's like, oh, to be, really creating my own stuff is feeling good. And I got enough into it to feel like this is going to be kind of an epic novel, like a 40 chapter novel, kind of divided up into 4 sections. And I thought, what am I going to do when I'm done with it? Like, I don't even really read books, really. I'm like a movie, TV guy. So I don't know how to polish this off. I don't know how to publish it. I don't know how to market it. Maybe I need to start with something smaller. And so I wrote a short story, put that out as an ebook. No one was expecting me to do that. I didn't tell anybody until it was on Amazon, on Apple Store. I was like, oh, hey, I got a book. Here it is. And people were like, what?
Yeah.
And so I got a great response to it. And but a lot of people wanted a paperback, which at that time was not really economically feasible to do that for a 36-page short story. So I thought, okay, well, I'll write some other short stories and have a little anthology that I can make a paperback of and sell that.
Yeah.
So I was just thinking, what other stories have I got? One of them is the story that became The Darkness Rolled Over Her, which is the primary short story that I've been talking about lately. And my dad's a fly fisherman, and he had a 2-minute story that he helped some friends guide on a fishing trip one day. I was kind of fascinated by it, kept thinking about it. And I thought, I think there's something there. My stories, I like them to, because here's the thing about story. Story is, I think because we read a book by ourselves, or many times we watch a movie or a TV series by ourselves, we think of it as sort of a solitary venture, but it's not. It's a social mechanism. Yeah. I am saying something and you are receiving it. So even if it's just the two of us, that is social.
Wow, I've never thought of it like that, but yeah, for sure.
If I tell the story and I'm the only one who reads it, like, why would I put all that work into it or whatever? In fact, the first short story, Kindling, that I wrote was a story I'd had in my head for 10 years. I'd never really written it down because I could not think of any sort of mechanism to put it out. And then when I decided to do short stories instead of film for, just for this endeavor, I thought, oh, I could use that as a short story. Maybe people would read it. And so, so all of my stories then, if I'm writing them, like, why am I going to use your time? Your time is very valuable. You're going to give it even for this 36-page book or 16-page book or 70-page book or whatever. So if you're going to trade your valuable time to read this book, I want to not just entertain you. That might be enough, but like, I want you to feel kind of better off for having read it,
Mm-hmm.
And so I think about just sort of the age-old concept of a allegory or a fable or a parable. The word parable, the para prefix means aside, alongside, to the side, beside, kind of that idea. And the balo root at the end of it there, it means throw. So like a ball or like a ballistic missile, something that has a trajectory, something that is thrown.
Yeah.
And so the word literally means thrown to the side or thrown alongside. And what a parable does, and why it can be important for things like mental health and things of that nature, is that a parable is sort of thrown to the side of the message, of the point that you're making. And so when people go along with the parable, if they're interested, they might also discover the message. And what's beautiful about that is, if I tell you something, then you are left to accept it or not accept it. And sort of the default is to not accept it because it's maybe something new. So you're like, well, wait a minute, what am I going to do with this?
Absolutely.
But when somebody sort of goes along with you on a story and they discover that idea on their own, then the tendency is, this belongs to me. This is an aha moment I had on my own. I discovered it on my own. Even if I, as a storyteller, sort of constructed you to have that aha moment, it still belongs to you. And it really is kind of unique to you. So one of the things about The Darkness Rolled Over Her is there are a lot of things I don't say in the book. So the main character is, just to give a summary for your listeners. So the main character is Gwen. You read in the early pages, she's decided to take her own life, but she's had this event planned, which is a fly fishing retreat. So she thinks, okay, I'll go this. I'll see my acquaintances, my friends, and just kind of say goodbye. They don't know what I'm doing, but I'll do that. And then I'll come home and do what I've planned to do. She goes on this fly fishing retreat. She meets this old fly fisherman named Roy, gets paired up with him for the day. And he's this charming old mountain dude, you know. And it kind of challenges her thinking a little bit, you know. With him, she has some joy, she has some happiness, she has some social interaction, she has some new experiences, which she kind of, as a middle-aged adult, was like, I'd kind of checked off ever having a new experience ever again. Yeah, and starts to kind of challenge things. Also, there's a younger woman on the trip named Sam, and so meeting Sam, she looks at Sam and she says, wow, Sam looks like she is maybe where I was at her age. I don't want her to be where I am at my age. I don't want anybody to be here, but I don't know what to do about it. I don't feel like I have anything left, you know? And so these are sort of the driving forces in the story, this decision that she's made and sort of being pulled in these different directions by this sort of little charming, chummy friendship with Roy. And then this sort of heart for this young girl, Sam. So that's the story. So, you know, but there's a lot of things I don't say in the story. So with Gwen, you know, her arm is in a sling in a brace. What happened there? I don't tell you that. You know, what was her job before this? I don't tell you that. What's her family? Was she married? Does she have, you know, I don't really tell you a lot of those things. A lot of things that I don't tell you, and I leave them sort of open specifically because the reader now might fill that in however they want.
Right. And it makes it more relatable to them.
Makes it more relatable, and it makes their experience of the book entirely unique. No one else will have the experience with the book that they have.
Absolutely.
It'll be completely theirs. So if they get to the end and they have similar revelations, if they go on the journey with Gwen and they are affected by the things that she's affected by, then they will have an entirely unique response as well.
Absolutely.
To the story. And the same thing with the film. You know, one of the principles of filmmaking is this idea of the Kuleshov effect. So Lev Kuleshov was a Russian or Ukrainian filmmaker in the 20s. And so in the 20s is when people really started editing. So before that, editing was basically, we shot this scene, we're just going to tape them together, right?
Yeah.
But at some point, people realized, oh, I can move the camera closer and get a shot of just someone's face, and I can cut this and add that in, and I get a little effect out of that. Oh, well, that's nice to be that close to them, you know? So in the 20s, people really started experimenting with cutting different things together, and people found that you could create a reaction by cutting into a close-up, and you could create pacing by cutting at different speeds and things like that. So people, particularly in France, Germany, and Russia, were doing all kinds of experimenting with different kinds of cutting. So this guy, Lev Kuleshov, it was a prominent Ukrainian actor at the time, and takes the face of this actor and cut it with some different things, and then showed it to an audience and asked the audience, what do you see happening here? Right. So they showed they would show like a plate of food, and then they would show the actor's face, and the audience would write down, oh, well, he's hungry, obviously, you know, and then they would show like a child's coffin and the actor's face, like, oh, he's grieving, he's in sorrow. You know, they would show a man with a knife, you know, it's the actor's face. Oh, he's horrified, he's terrified. What the audience was not savvy enough to pick up on at the time is it was the exact same shot of the actor every time, just an emotionless shot of the face. But what was happening was, because they were seeing the plate of food and the actor's face, putting it together, their brain said, I must make sense of this somehow, these two things next to each other, the juxtaposition of these things. And so sort of the Kuleshov effect is this idea that image A plus image B equals idea C that may not be inherent at all in either of those images.
Right.
You know, and so the idea of hunger is not on the screen. In fact, a plate of food would indicate that there is no hunger, that he's going to be able to eat, right? But the idea of hunger is happening in the mind, right? And so that belongs to the viewer, that belongs to the audience member. So this is a reason why fables, allegories, parables have been so powerful throughout all of human history, since before we've been writing them down, just in oral tradition. You know, the Grimm's fairy tales, you know, right? That's why all these things have been so powerful, because they are, it's one thing to say to your young daughter, be careful out in the woods because someone might attack you. It's another thing to tell her the story of Little Red Riding Hood that she will never forget.
Right.
And that will
No,
cause her, right?
in the business world, they always say, facts tell, stories sell.
Absolutely. So that's sort of been my goal as a filmmaker anyway, and a storyteller anyway. So when the darkness rolled over, when I first started writing that, I was thinking about my dad as this fly fisherman and this event that he had. And I remember him teaching me fly fishing. And I'm not very good at it. I've only done it a couple of times. He's an expert. He's been doing it 60, 70 years. But normal like fishing that I would do, put a worm or corn on the end of a hook, throw it out in the water and sit there for a couple hours.
Yeah.
Which now as an adult, I look back, I think maybe that was just dad keeping me busy and out of his way. Maybe, I don't know.
Yeah, maybe.
But fly fishing, you are out in the water.
Mm-hmm.
And my dad, he'll cast to a spot and he figures if he's done 3 or 4 casts and nothing's biting, there's nothing there that wants anything. So he's going to move on and he's going to move upriver. You're always moving upstream, which also means you're, especially in East Tennessee, you're moving uphill. You're going up the mountains.
Oh, yeah.
So you're going over these big rocks, ice cold water coming down out of the mountains, all this snow runoff and stuff. And it can be pretty grueling. And sometimes he will be out there for an hour or more, walking 2-3 miles uphill through all this water, rushing water coming down at him, trying to push him the other way, But the sort of the ostinato there, sort of the thing that kept repeating was, keep moving. We got to keep moving. Nothing's happening here. We're going to keep moving. We got to keep moving upstream. And that just immediately made me think about how in my depressive and lonely times, I had to find some way just to keep moving, because if you're out in the Tellico River in East Tennessee, if you just lay down, you will drown and die.
You will, yeah.
And you've got to stay on your feet, and you got to keep moving upstream, and you got to keep fighting against the water. And so I thought, I need a character who has decided to stop moving and needs to be encouraged to keep moving,
Yeah.
And so that's really where the story came out of. And at that point, once it became sort of about a character who had decided to take her own life, which I did not intend to write that story when I first set out. Once it became about that, I realized, okay, all of us have gone through some kind of depression or feeling worthless or purposeless or like we're not contributing or whatever,
Yeah.
I don't know that I would be in the category necessarily of suicidal. Okay. But there's been days when I've woken up and stared at the ceiling and thought, hey, if today's going to be like the last 100 days, like, I don't want to do this much longer. I'm not going to do anything, but like,
right.
Yeah, I'm fine with that or whatever, So, so I thought, okay, I can write sort of around this, but I need to turn the volume up on my experiences to get to where this character is. And just like a speaker, when you turn the volume up, it distorts, and since something different happens, then I knew if I turn the volume up that there's a distortion that happens for a person who's really in that place that I don't know about, So I had people in my life that I reached out to. I had a friend that I knew who she lost her father to suicide. I had 2 friends that had attempted and lived. One, I came to know him and be a good friend after this time in his life. Another, I knew her during this time in her life, like going to her house and knocking on her door, wondering if she's going to answer, bringing her to my house, saying, just sleep here and we'll take care of it, right in the middle of it. I had another friend who was a counselor and had counseled many people through suicidal times and had a lot of good feedback, from a counseling perspective. So all 4 of these friends were extremely gracious in reading early drafts of the story and giving their feedback. And I'm so appreciative to them for being willing to go to that place, and to share that, to help other people. They understood what was happening. They understood that this was not for me or to sell books or whatever, but that I really wanted to help people once the story became about this. They gave me some really great feedback, which I really tried to incorporate. So for me, the book is for people that are in this dark space. You don't have to be all the way where Gwen is, but if you're in this depressive,
even just some loneliness,
absolutely. If you're in this space, my hope is you'll read this book and go, hey, somebody else gets this, so I'm not alone. Because I think that's the chief lie of this kind of thing, is that I'm the only one dealing with this. Nobody understands what I'm going through.
Yes.
You know, yeah, okay, maybe no one will understand exactly every finite point of what you're going through. But what
Right.
you're going through is actually, you know, common to every human being. We don't talk
Right.
about it. We don't discuss it.
Exactly.
You know?
Exactly.
But so I had a friend who read the short story when it came out, and she's somebody I've known my whole life, kind of an acquaintance. Our moms were good friends, but I've known her for a long time. But she was like, "Oh, I read the book," and within a minute of us having this conversation in the hallway, she starts telling me kind of some personal things about how she's felt, you know, but she felt comfortable doing that because having read the book, she knew I would understand.
Yep.
And because she was telling me, I felt comfortable discussing some of the things because I knew she would understand.
Yeah.
And so after that conversation, I thought, how do I get that to happen for every reader of this book?
Yeah.
Like every reader of this book needs that conversation to happen that just happened to me. And so from there, I developed with 5 coffees in a book. So I've got my 5 coffees in a book
I
t-shirt
love
on.
it.
And it's just a little mini book club. It is a 5-week, or you can do it however over whatever time span you want. But the idea is you sit down over coffee, you know, for 5 times with a friend, and you'd read the book and you talk about it. And so week 1, you come together and just sort of whoever's getting the group together just says, "Here's what we're going to do. We're going to read the book. Here's where you get the book." You know, week 2, you talk about the story, some of the themes of the story, and then weeks 3, 4, and 5, you talk about the characters. So week 3, you're talking about Roy. You're talking about encouragement, who's somebody who's encouraged or mentored me, you know,
Yeah.
and share that. Week 4, you're talking about Gwen and how does her story, how does that go through the book? And
Yeah.
and people have an opportunity. They're not obligated, but they have an opportunity to tell some of their own story. You know, I was here, and here's some things that happened to me, and now I'm here. You know, sort of our little 3-act structure, storytelling kind of story. And then week 5, we talk about Sam, and we say, who's someone in my life that I could encourage? There's people out there that need encouragement. You know, sort of one of the chief points that I try to get everyone to with the story. Roy is very important for Gwen in the story, as you could imagine. But the thing that really helps Gwen make any kind of change is Sam. Roy is encouraging and breaks some things open in her, but it's Sam that kind of gives her a purpose that says,
Right.
I need to do something here, you know? And so a principle that I found in life is, you know, I'm feeling like I need to be loved. I'm feeling like I need encouragement. If I sit around and wait for that to happen, the bad news is it might not. Like, you know, to your listeners who are thinking, I need love in my life. I need encouragement in my life. I need a Roy. I'm sorry. The bad news is it might not happen. You know, it just might not. But the good news is that the love and encouragement that you get from somebody else actually won't fulfill you. What will fulfill you is when you encourage and show love to someone else.
Yeah.
It's when you give it away. And a line that I don't even think is in the book, but it's in the movie, and sort of a core idea, which is you only keep what you give away. And so if it's love and encouragement that you need, you actually have to give that away in order to get it. There's this economy of tangible things where if I give you some, I have less. If I have cake and I give you some, I have less cake. If I have money and I give you some, I have less money. But the economy of the intangible is the opposite.
You're right.
If I have love and I give you some, there's now twice as much, maybe 3 times as much. You know, if I have encouragement and I encourage you, now I feel better and you have encouragement. There's more encouragement than there was to begin with. So
Absolutely.
the economy of intangible things is sort of counterintuitive, especially where we're in this dark, isolated place and have trouble sort of assessing reality properly, you know? And so, you know, my hope for this story, my hope for 5 coffees in a book is that people would read it, that they read it with someone. Again, that it would be the social act,
Right.
reading together, and that they would say, hey, I might not get a Roy, but I can be encouraging to somebody else. And that's the really fantastic news. So the bad news is you might not have a Roy, but the good news is you'll get better love and encouragement by giving it away. And the fantastic news is there's about 8 billion people that are all wanting love and encouragement.
Right. And before I forget to say this, if I don't say this on the intro, I want to say it now, that Threads is a beautiful place to go form any sort of community. So if anyone listening is interested in starting more of a virtual book club, because maybe you don't have anyone in your life that you can do that with, go to Threads and use their hashtags, because dude, I've met so many people off Threads.
Yeah, there's so many negative things we could say about social media, but I really think it's a net positive. I mean, things like this is all comes from some kind of social media.
Right.
Define it. Threads is great. Threads algorithm is really great for helping you connect with people that share common interests, things like that.
Yeah, that's
really
what I
good.
have found. I don't love any social media. I'm only because I have to be at this point, except TikTok. I'm fully addicted. But like the other stuff, I post my stuff and then I spend some time sharing other people's stuff and then I get the hell out. But I do know Threads is wonderful for connecting people in whatever it is. Like it will be your people that find you too. Like it's crazy. Before I forget to ask you this, I have to. I'm so sorry. Because I have these two boys who, all my kids have done this YouTube thing at some point in their life, usually around 8, 9, 10, 11. They think they're going to be a YouTube star and then they lose their fucking password. So like they're just on there for the rest of their life, right? Are you so fucking glad YouTube was not a thing when you were a kid?
There are so many things that exist now that I'm like, if this existed when I was in junior high school, I would be in so much trouble probably.
Oh my God. I'm so thankful that
I was
born
embarrassed
in 80. So I'm like right there with you. And some of the stuff now I'm so grateful did not exist because middle school was hard enough, man. I do not need any of those things. But when you were talking about your video camera stuff when you were little, I was remembering this girl I had whose family had more money than we did. She had a video camera and we'd go to this house that was under construction and we'd be filming little Trisha Yearwood videos,
For sure. Absolutely.
We were so, cool. But yeah, I'm just really glad YouTube wasn't a thing because every child loses their password and they are humiliated for the rest of their life. We still will pull up my boys, their YouTube stuff sometimes just to laugh. They don't like it, and I'm not really a teaser. I don't do that, but it just fucking cracks me up, man.
Yeah, my brother and I still have a lot of our old stuff on VHS, and it's like, man, it's so good that this stuff is not on the internet, that it's just on this tape that nobody else has a copy of.
Yes, but how great that you have it. Like
we do still have it. I don't know
how to transfer some of the old stuff that I have when my babies were growing up. I would love to be able to get that, saved onto something more like, this generation. But
for sure.
I know that the technology's out there, but
there's me at 7 or 8 years old with a top loader and my my striped socks.
No, and that is the outfit for the entire, like that just sums up what we all fucking look like. I had an outfit that looked just like that. Colors weren't a deal. Yeah. I remember wearing blue. Did you have the royal blue shirt that looked like that too? And the royal blue socks with the royal blue. Yeah. I mean, it was that brown, very bohemian. Now that I'm thinking about it, like our color scheme was very boho, but yeah, we all looked the same, dude. I mean, your hair, everything is just so like, I never get to talk to people my age, it feels like. So it's like really fun to relive some of that.
We're in a really neat sort of generational gap. So there's the Gen X and then there's the millennials. And then those of us that are born like 78 to 82, kind of like right in there, they call it the Zennials. Kind of
I always say I'm a baby Gen X because I'm literally the last few months of Gen X and an elder millennial.
Yeah. And so they call us the Zennials, or some people call us the Goonies, the Goonie generation.
And we are. God, you
we played outside.
You could have been in that fucking movie.
Absolutely. We played outside. We swung from trees. My parents didn't know where we were. My mom, we literally had a giant triangle on our back porch, and when dinner was ready, Mom would go out and clang that thing.
You're kidding.
We'd be out on our bikes somewhere in the neighborhood. We could hear it. I said, "Oh, I gotta go home. Dinner's ready."
Oh, gotta go. We kind of had the, dusk sitch. Like if it started, if the, the street lights come on. Yeah, you got to go. But like we lived in an area where like probably 8 neighborhoods were in one. Like as they expanded throughout the years. So we could end up about 2 miles away in our neighborhood. And baby, she didn't give a fuck. Like
no cell phone, no. Yeah.
And they literally locked the doors if we came in too many times to change clothes or grab a snack or whatever. Like it was very expected to come eat your lunch and then go back outside. And bonus points if you ate your lunch outside. Like if you were just having one of those days, I remember she'd be like, "Do you want to take some extra Kool-Aid with you outside?" Because Kool-Aid was our thing.
Absolutely. Yeah, for sure.
God, there was
Yeah.
and like I've been pulling up some of those clips from the news and then they had celebrity little cameos being like, it's 10 o'clock. Do you know where your kids are? And
Yep.
like that is so real for our generation. They didn't know where the hell we were ever.
Yeah. Well, I think it's interesting that we bridge this gap because, my mom is pretty tech savvy. She's always been able to do little PowerPoint talks and things, and she bought her own little projector, and I was just always been kind of impressed at what she's able to do. I still have to help her out with the Apple TV password and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Like my dad doesn't want anything to do with it. My dad doesn't. He looks over mom's shoulder and is like, "Oh, that's neat," or whatever. He's got an
I can
iPhone.
picture it. He's like,
yeah. But then my brother's kids, I don't have kids, but my brother has 3 girls. And so they're a little different than most people their age, but I mean, they've grown up in this world of Instagram and TikTok and all this kind of stuff. And I look, we mentioned TikTok being addictive earlier.
it is.
It's literally designed to do that.
Yeah.
I mean, it's literally designed to find whatever is going to trigger that dopamine thing in your brain and just keep you coming back for more of it. And I just think, what if I had been addicted to something instead of on my BMX headed down to Mr. Zep with Huey Lewis playing in my little Walkman speakers in the front of
building
my bike,
ramps off the curbs,
drinking a Jolt Cola or whatever, And
oh my God, I forgot Jolt Cola. My God.
But we're in this unique position, I think, in that we remember that world, which now feels free.
Right.
Whereas a lot of younger people, without maybe even realizing it, may feel trapped by what the world they're seeing on social media, the world that's portrayed to them. I have to look a certain way, I have to behave a certain way, I have to speak a certain way.
Right.
I have to think a certain way or whatever. And I think we were really, really sort of free during that time. Part of it was we were kids, we were unencumbered by social and political things, probably as kids for the most part.
Right. Well, I mean, if you think about it, the only reason that people are as informed, and I'm putting that in air quotes because there's a lot of misinformation spread all the time, but the only reason that we are inundated with the amount of information that we are is social media. And so back then, I think about learning how, I think it was Roosevelt. Was it Roosevelt that was in a wheelchair and the press wouldn't they respected his wishes to not photograph him showing the wheelchair. Sure. But I think about what a difference media, press, all, and I'm not saying that, that's a big deal if that weren't to happen now, but we weren't seeing all of the shit. We weren't exposed to lots of things that we are now. And even my 10-year-old hears her 22-year-old brother shit bitching about politics all the time because he likes social media for that type of thing, where I avoid all of that because it scares me. The things that are happening in our country right now are scary to me. So I'm like, oh, I don't need to know every little thing. But it's crazy because she's being totally influenced by her older brother, even though she's not seeing that stuff, he's influenced. And that's we had more of a trickle down. Well, first of all, it wasn't polite to discuss politics in mixed company, which would have meant women and children, and all of these things. So they really sheltered us, and then thought though that by the time we were 18, that we should have had an awareness of all that. They're crazy.
We would be informed enough to make good decisions.
Yeah, exactly. What are you doing? Because I taught you that. No, you fucking didn't. But okay. I mean, because I have a lot of hatred for the boomers. I really do. Just from my own personal experience, I can hold a lot of compassion because they were raised by the silent generation who was 1,000 times worse. And I get it. I get why people do what they do. But there was some magic in our generation that you can't transfer any of that knowing to anyone else because you had to grow up in it. But I was wondering, go ahead.
Well, so I was going to say, don't say there was some magic, because there still is.
Oh, true.
And I think that I think that we should grab hold of that, and I think that we should use it for good. It's a superpower. And for me, like the 5 coffees in a book thing, I just don't know that you're going to see. I don't know that you're going to see a 30-year-old or a 24-year-old on TikTok or Instagram necessarily suggesting something like that, because
especially the format that you've laid out. I love that you even took the guesswork out of it.
That's just not a way in which they've commonly interacted. For us, we grew up doing stuff like that in school. It's not that big a deal. And so I think it's sort of on us in a way. I think we have a responsibility to say, hey, in this world of digital connection, which there's many good things about it, like you need to break free, not just touch grass, but like you need to, connect with your other human beings.
Absolutely.
You need to look them in the eye. You need to sit across the table, and you need to not worry about, the Amazon devices that are listening to you or whatever. Like, go out in the park, have a picnic, and just talk with someone and feel free. There's
Absolutely. And
a freedom
libraries
there,
have free rooms for that too. Like coffee
absolutely.
shops, libraries. I mean, there are so many great places, even if it's just you and one other person. Like, it doesn't have to be a whole group if you can't come up with a lot of people. And that's like, I keep thinking about you talking about helping others, like encouraging others being the thing that really lifts your own spirit. And when I left, a lot of my story kind of culminates. I had a very extensive history of childhood trauma and kind of just spent my whole adult life trying to figure it out, and without very much information at all until the last 10 years, but about a year and a half ago, I found myself like in the darkest place I've ever been, and was like making a plan. So on my hardest days at work, where I just couldn't get out of my head and I just hated being alive at that point, because it was a very all-consuming experience in that darkness that I had never experienced. I've had periods of depression and anxiety my whole life, obviously, but like never had I made a plan. But what I would do is I would cut out these cute little die cut things out of construction paper, and I would write a note to every employee in the building. I did it at least once a month, because it really did put me in the best mood. I mean, when you're giving like that, and then especially I didn't do it for the feedback, but watching how it impacted other people was amazing. Because like I worked in a school, and like the cafeteria ladies, feeling so special that I would even include them, because the cafeteria ladies aren't really included in very much at all. Right. Or, the school psych, who's only there once a week. I mean, I got a list of the employees, because I was like, I don't want to be that guy who accidentally leaves one person off, Yeah. But I'm only kind of like, I'm not super comfortable talking about it, just because I don't want it to seem like I'm like, aren't I such a good person?
Of course.
But I do have to talk about it, because it's what you're saying is so true. When you get, and if you don't have it to give, you don't have it to give. I'm not judging anyone. If you don't have a nice thing to say anyone because you just hate your life, that's fine too. But if you can find some way to encourage someone else, it really does fill your own holes, because that's what Absolutely. I talk so much about on here, is the growth. And I'm sorry, my brain is really unhappy with me today, but just the journey I've been on, the evolution. Where I'm at right now is my understanding that like all love is only the love that you cultivate within, and you can share that with others, but you cannot receive love from others if you haven't found it within yourself, because they can try to encourage you. They can try to say the nicest things about you. But I had, an acquaintance on here last week. Well, the episode was, but we were talking about how like we couldn't accept compliments from people. And he went so far as to feel like they were being condescending when they were complimenting. And so it's all just your perception. But when you can give authentically and just lovingly, you will have that reflected back at you, because otherwise you're just reflecting all your projections back at you, which is just bullshit.
Yeah, I mean, I would go as far as to say that love is like story, and that it is a social thing. I suppose I could sit here and just have love as some sort of amorphous concept, but typically if I'm loving something. I love pizza, I love my mom, I love my friends, and there's a relationship there, and it may not necessarily be reciprocated or whatever, but it is still like story. It is sort of this social thing, and that it involves more than just me, sort of this network of things. I saw this quote online, and I'm only going to repeat it, not because I believe it or that it's true, because it's unsourced or whatever, but it was provocative and made me think, but he said, and again, I don't know if this is true, but he said that a lot of men who are suicidal, men in particular, report that from whatever study he was looking at, don't necessarily have a mental health issue, but rather have essentially constructed a life for themselves that they no longer feel is worth living.
Right.
I don't know that that's true. I don't know the source. Okay. But it is a provocative thought. And when I look at my times, when I was, at my most isolated, why was I feeling isolated? Because I felt like I wasn't any good for anybody. I felt like I wasn't contributing anything.
Right. They're better off without me.
And so why does loving and encouraging someone else matter so much? Is because suddenly I've got a reason to live. I've got a purpose now. So, when Gwen sees Sam in the story, it gives her a reason to go on at least one more day,
Yeah.
And it might be a purpose rooted in some other person, but that's better. That's infinitely better than no purpose,
Yeah.
And that will build something that hopefully will snowball and grow within her if she cultivates it. I think that suicide in particular is obviously a difficult topic because there are so many different factors at play.
Mm-hmm.
And I've always kind of given the analogy that it's this is a person who has arrived at a train station at the end of the line. They're wanting to get on a train that's going to leave and never come back.
Mm-hmm.
And my hope is, can I stop you from getting on?
Right.
We just do that. That's all I can do. Because everyone has come from all over to this place. And in the same way that they all took different journeys to get there, they're all going to take unique journeys home. So some people are going to need medication. Some people aren't. Some people are going to need some really intensive therapy. Some people just need to get some sunshine and get some sleep and eat better and exercise.
Yeah. Yeah.
Some people are going to need group therapy. Some people are going to need individual therapy, whatever, right? There's all a myriad things that you would use to sort of help someone kind of pull someone back from the brink. But the one thing I think every one of them will benefit from is talking to another human being. And so I think that that for me is the power of the 5 coffees in a book, is that someone who's part of it or someone who takes it to somebody else.
Yeah.
Because here's the thing with 5 coffees in a book. You don't have to lead the group. You don't have to teach anything. You don't have to know anything. It's just all right there in the discussion guide.
Yeah.
All you got to do is just, hey, will you meet me for coffee right here, right? I did it with a friend. We only did like 2 or 3 times we got together, but we got through most of the stuff because I don't care if you go through the discussion guide. That's not the point. The point is will you get together with this other person and open up with them and share and build a connection there.
Yeah, it's like sharing shadow work, basically.
I got a lifelong friend out of that, even just doing it for a couple of weeks.
Really?
Yeah. A couple of friends decided to kind of guinea pig it for me when I first put it together. And it was people that had known each other for a long time. And so anyway, they got together by weeks 2 or 3, they had a group chat going and they were like, can we keep this going after these 5 weeks? Because I needed this. I didn't realize I needed this. I didn't realize this was something I was missing.
Authentic connection. This is what I talk about all the time on here is the way we are programmed to socialize is to talk shit and complain. And that's it. If you are not authentically connecting, the only time you're speaking to somebody is for necessity or to talk shit about someone else or to complain about your fucking job. That's it. And how are you going to cultivate any sort of happiness, light, bright, any of that? Absolutely. Yeah, you can't. And this is like such a simple way to get people to open up because that's what it is. That's why my show is called Emotionally Unavailable, because that's what I learned about myself. And then as I healed, I saw we're all the fucking same. We're all walking around feeling invisible, feeling unlovable, feeling like we have the weight of the world on our shoulders and nobody to help us carry it, and feeling like we're too much and not enough all at the same time. And we don't know how to even begin to get that shit out of us to have someone else help us carry it. Absolutely. I still struggle with like sharing my shit in real time. I'm kind of a go in my head, process, and then tell you about it after, like, oh, last week was bad, baby. I'm learning how to like take baby steps into sharing in real time and be like, I am going through something very real right now, but it's still a struggle. And I mean, I've created a life where I get to have these conversations all day, either through the podcast or as a therapist. So if I, who is immersed in this world, still is struggling to do that, imagine. I don't have to imagine because I know where I was a year ago and where I am now. But we're not any different. And once we realize like, even the book Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus. I ate that shit up like 16 years ago. I was like, oh my God, yes. And I'm not going to say anything bad about it. It's great. It's a great book. It's a good thing to understand your partner's mind and whatever. But where I think so many of us are getting it wrong is to act like men and women aren't the same. We do have the same needs. They look different, but
Sure.
we are all feeling unlovable until we figure it out. So, and we all just carry all this shame that we don't even know about. So if you can find a way to simply connect with someone authentically, that is the beginning of a whole new world for you. That's why I'm just like ate up with this idea, because the discussion questions, they're not even scary, but it opens up you to this whole, like, you're looking at your experiences differently too when you're sharing like that and getting feedback, because now hearing their stories too, because so now they don't just have your story that you've written, they're hearing other stories, more parables, you know what I mean?
And they feel more safe than to open up more, because they understand these people sitting across from me, they get this as well.
Yes.
Again, that going back to that conversation I had in the hallway with my friend that instigated this whole idea. I found that either of us, if we were kind of getting too personal or didn't want to get down in the weeds or whatever, we would just sort of default to the book. We would just go, it's like in the book when blah, blah, blah. And I thought, man, having the book is a perfect foil for people being, if they feel uncomfortable, they can kind of hide behind the book. And so that's, again, another big powerful of allegory and story. And so what ends up happening is, so again, this guinea pig group that did it, when they got to week 4, they'd been meeting in a coffee shop, and they decided week 4 they were going to do it at one of their houses. They were there for like 3 hours, and they were there just really opening up to each other. And these are 4 people that have known each other basically their whole lives. They've known each other for a long time, and probably would not have thought that there was a lot that they didn't know about the other people in the group. And yet they were able to really open up and talk about a lot of things that they maybe have not shared with maybe another human being on this planet, or maybe their spouse or something, And so that connection to them was like super important. So if you go to 5coffeesinabook.com, you will see 2 phrases there. One is, it's an easy way to talk about hard things. And 2, you'll make friends for life. And there's that double meaning there. You'll make friends that'll be friends for the rest of your life, but you'll make friends that will bring life into you.
Yeah.
That light and that positivity that you were talking about, that will bring that into your life, and you will bring it into their life. You will generate that, So it's an easy way to talk about hard things. You'll make friends for life. And I've tried to make it as easy as possible. I want you to have some buy-in. I want you to have, some things that I want you to have some skin in the game, but I just kept thinking with this in particular, I keep thinking what if there's some, 14-year-old girl that comes across this book and wants to discuss it with somebody and isn't savvy enough and doesn't know how. Here's a guide that she can just kind of go down, that her and her friends can go over. It won't cost them a thing. The ebook to the short story is free at 5coffeesinabook.com. The discussion guide is there for free as a PDF, or you can swipe through it on our Instagram or Facebook photos, it's in there. But it's super easy to go through. You don't have to know how to lead anything. You don't have to teach. One person in the group should know how to read English. But I mean, most of the group can be illiterate and still be fine, so you can do this in prisons. You can do this in prisons. You can do this with, homeless groups or whatever. It's just real simple. And again, the whole goal here is, can you sit down with another human being and build that connection? I love technology. I'm surrounded by it right now. You can't even believe all the technology that I have that you can't see, but it's like, I love it. As a filmmaker, I depend on it, but it has made us, we are so connected, 1980, I couldn't have had a conversation like this with somebody in Oklahoma, right? So we're so connected. We've never been connected more as a human species, and we've never been more isolated.
Exactly. Yeah, because we're not leveraging the technology for the things that it could do really positively for us. Really. Can you tell me your zodiac sign?
I see. I'm born August 24th. So.
Oh, Virgo. Okay.
It's a Virgo. Okay. Yeah. That's I don't put a whole lot of stock in that. I know some people do, but
yeah, I do for sure.
Yeah.
Well, okay. So I will make sure that I include all of those links that you've said in my show notes. Is there anything else that you want to kind of shout out or anything like that?
Well, the film will be out later this year. That's the plan. And we're very close to finishing it. We filmed it in the fall of 2020. We've been editing it for like 5 years.
Yeah.
We had a crew of basically 3 that made the movie. which is insane. We had there were a few days where we had more people than that, but not much.
And where do you release indie films to?
That's an excellent question.
Oh, okay.
Still going. I think this one will look fairly traditional in that I'm getting it ready for theatrical release just so we can have a premiere event, so we can show it in a theater.
Yeah.
There's a sort of technical standard.
That's really cool. Yeah.
But if I've got it good enough to play at that event, then I would like to talk with like Malco is based out of Memphis. I think AMC Regal has offices in Knoxville.
We also have a very booming film industry here that you could look into, because we do premieres, we do all kinds of stuff in Oklahoma now.
People in Los Angeles are like, nothing is shooting here because everything is shooting in Atlanta or in Michigan or in Nashville or wherever, Canada, Oklahoma, Indonesia, Bulgaria.
They're really taking indie films by the horns over here. I don't know. I only know that because one of my kids was really into film for a sec and we were looking into, but I mean, like, we have this huge studio downtown. Like it's really cool. You should definitely look into it, just because I know we have this place called, what's it called? I want to say Netflix and Chill, and that's not it. It's Flicks Brew House. So it's like a cool industrial warehouse type place where they do screenings, they do all kinds of stuff, but you can drink beer and eat while you're there. You should look into like having something there, because it's not so far from here.
Yeah, we have a place like similar to that in Nashville called Belcourt Theater, and they will show a lot of art house stuff. And they also, like, weekend and midnight screenings, they'll show old classic films and things like that. They still show stuff on film, but they have digital projectors as well. And they have a fancy concessions and stuff there too. It's an old historic theater.
I love that. Well, and I'm gonna make sure to follow you on social media too, so that I can share your shit. I mean, and if there's I'm not saying that there is, but if anything that I can ever do to help promote you or anything else, I would love to.
Well, I thank you so much. I would love it if you got a couple of your friends and did a 5 coffees in a book group.
I could try. We're
you'll make friends for life.
Busy.
Yeah.
Well, we could try though.
Yeah.
Awesome, man. I appreciate you being here. This was such a good conversation. I'm really excited to check.
I enjoyed it a lot.
Good.
I appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
All right. Well, I hope you have a wonderful Wednesday.
Okay, you too.
Thanks.
Hey, make sure you've given the show a 5-star rating on whatever platform you're listening to if you haven't already. And check out my website, empoweredwithmelissahepner.org, or my link tree on Instagram at melissa.hepner to check out my latest offers or workshops.
Emotionally unavailable.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Emotionally unavailable.
INDEPE and cut.